Hey team, it's your coach Robin. So many apologies for the fact that this did not work out the way that I wanted it to, but such is life, right? There's always going to be times where things don't go as expected or as planned. So this is a recording of the training instead of a live version, and it's really, at the end of the day, it's not the biggest deal, but I do, like, it hurts my heart when I disappoint people. And I saw that there were people waiting for the live stream to start, and the pieces were not coming together, the appropriate pieces of the specific kind of technology needed were all there, but for some reason they weren't talking to each other. So I'm so sorry for those of you who were waiting for this. And here is the recorded, albeit abbreviated, version of it instead, because that was 20 minutes 20 minutes of faffing about. For those of you who don't know the word faff, F-A-F-F, it's a beautiful British word that means just like messing around, like just faff. 20 minutes of straight faff. Okay, let's get to the content. So since 2016, I've been developing different systems and methodologies of helping people, specifically high-achieving women, create massive transformation in their life, to create real sustained changes in their life. Now, people come to me because they want professional changes. They're looking for a new job. They're looking for a different career path. They're looking for a promotion. They're looking to start a business, or they're looking to bring their business to the next level. It's always, the entry point with working with me is almost always, 99% of the time, I'm unfulfilled at my job. That's the sentiment. I know something's ready to change at my work, and I want help with navigating that next chapter. Since 2023, 1 year ago last month, I've been focusing those methodologies on supporting women athletes who happen to be female, and they always arrive at the question, now what? What's next? So I distilled all of the tools and methodologies into a 6-step method called EXPAND. EXPAND is an acronym for the 6 steps for sustained transformation. Today's training is about the E of EXPAND, embrace the ending. In order for us to get to a new place, to step into something more expansive, to move into the next place of where we're looking to be professionally and personally, we gotta recognize that where we are coming from is done. That chapter is over. We are closing that door. We are putting a period at the end of that sentence. But before we do that, we don't just run into the next thing. We don't just say, okay, what's my next job opportunity? Where do I go now? Let me start doing this thing without even looking behind me. We want to close the door on purpose and with intention. We want to harvest all of the gems, all of the gold that came from your past chapter, so that you can take that with you into your next chapter. You can use all the growth that you've experienced, all the experiences that you've gained along the way, as your compass for informing how you move forward. Caveat: the past can inform us, can support us. We don't only use the past as our North Star, as our compass. That's to supplement what we learn how to use as our actual compass, which is our vision. Now, vision is actually step 3 in the process. So what's happening is that when we are embracing the ending, we are looking back over our time with a sense of curiosity, with a sense of intention to collect the goodness, with an intention to celebrate, and with an intention to recognize the growing edges. A lot of times when we look back at a chapter that is closing, professionally especially, we take a look at, essentially our brain starts to highlight the gaps. So here's where we are failing. Here's what didn't go so well. Here's what I don't want more of. That's what the brain tends to focus on, because it perceives those things as failures, as risks. Okay? Now, first and foremost, our brain is designed to highlight risk, because its job is to keep us alive. And so if it can get ahead of all of the risks, then it can keep you safe. That's the logic behind it. If I know what's potentially a threat, then I can get ahead of it, right? But the thing is, if that's the only thing that we're focusing on, that's what we're expanding. And we are leaving behind all of the goodness that comes along the way. We're leaving behind all of the wins, all of the growth, all of the achievements, the accomplishments. And the thing is, sometimes we can be very either or. We can be very binary in this. Either we're focusing on, here are all the disappointments, here was a big failure, here's what I didn't achieve, here's what I lost. Or we're saying, oh, that one thing that I just got so much recognition for, that I was just like so proud of. We hang our hat on that. And not just our hat, we hang our whole identity on it. This is a big thing, especially when it comes to athletes, because as athletes, we sometimes get our identities wrapped up in the accomplishment, right? What's the highest level of success you have achieved? That's generally what you're recognized as, especially if you're a bit of a celebrity, if you're a bit of a big deal publicly in your field or even in the world at large, right? So if you are a world champion swimmer, guess what? Your title is world champion swimmer, right? And so everything you do will feel like a comparison, or might feel like a comparison to that pinnacle moment. So this process is around looking at your past chapter with more of a neutral, even-keeled perspective, to really celebrate the wins, but to also harvest all of the goodness that we might be overlooking. Okay? So as you look back at your last chapter, I want you to celebrate how far you've come. Look at the chapters before the last one. So this might be looking back to when you were a little girl and realizing she has no idea what's ahead for her, right? She had big dreams. She was working hard. She was showing up every day, right? And yet she could have never predicted the road that she walked. There's always stuff that happens unpredictably. There's always stuff that happens that we had no idea to prepare for. Maybe there was an injury. Maybe there was an illness. Maybe there was a loss unexpectedly, right? This could be a game, a match. It could be a disqualification. It could be you didn't make the team that year. You didn't make the cut. It could be perhaps a loss of a teammate. Maybe someone got traded to another team. Maybe someone passed away. Maybe it was a family member. Maybe it was someone in your personal life who's no longer in your life now. Lots changes as we walk this path, right? Lots changes as we continue to move forward in how we are growing, and in our work, how we're serving, how we're showing up, how we're inspiring others, how we're working with a team, how we're supporting one another. You grow along the way. So when we talk about embracing the ending, this is looking back on the last chapter with a lot of love and with a lot of gratitude and with a lot of celebration. Of course, there are always going to be things to improve upon. Of course, that's life. That's growth. There's the next thing will always have growth opportunities. There will always be new skills to learn or skills to develop a deeper mastery around, right? That's fine. We'll get to those. But when we talk about embracing the ending, this means recognizing, for me to walk through that door, I got to close this door, or at least I got to finish walking through it. I got to step all the way through it. I can't have one foot in both doors. That's not possible in this space. Or here's the thing. We might be, for example, accepting the new job, but really hung up on the past, really wishing we were still doing that, really trying to get back to the glory days, right? The good old days, trying to relive what has already come to pass. That is not going to serve where you're going. That's only going to keep you stuck and spinning your wheels. Okay? when we talk about embracing the ending, one of the most powerful things that you can do is take a look back at your last chapter, right? It could be your last job, the last team you were with, the last coach you worked with, the last, let's see, if you're graduating from university, the last season as a student athlete, whatever your past chapter was, and however you're defining that. One of the most powerful things you can do is write a letter. Write a letter of gratitude, saying, thank you, yesterday's me. Thank you, world champion me. Thank you, student athlete me. Thank you, team captain me. Whatever the title of who you were, your identity in that last chapter, write a letter to her. Start that letter with something light, because this is a beautiful relationship that you have. Or if it wasn't, we can make it a beautiful relationship. We can start planting the seeds of this becoming a beautiful relationship. A lot of especially really driven, high achieving women are very, very hard on themselves. Very, very hard on themselves. Themselves. And so sometimes it's not a loving relationship. Sometimes it's a hypercritical relationship. Sometimes it's you are your worst enemy. You push yourself, you drive yourself. Let this letter, this stops now. Being your worst enemy, you need to be your best teammate. So if you were your worst enemy, embrace the ending of that. We're ending that. That's not coming with us. It's not just the title or the work that you were doing or the role that you had, right? It could also be the ending of a non-loving relationship with yourself. This stops now. You begin a new path in that relationship. You begin a new path toward the next professional venture in this letter. We're embracing the ending through a letter. Start it with something light, something loving, such as, it has been a wild ride. And as I say that, it kind of sounds like a cheesy, like yearbook writing. But the thing is, there's a reason that was so popular. I don't know if people still sign yearbooks these days, but if you're watching this, chances are you signed a yearbook, or you at least know what I'm talking about. It has been a really wild ride, right? We're opening into a loving conversation with who we were, with that version of us, that version of life, right? So what we're going to do is move into a beautiful reflection of your favorite parts of that last chapter. What were the highlights? Do you remember when? Oh my gosh, wasn't it so funny when? Or I was so proud of you when? This is writing a really loving letter of reflection to yesterday's you. So lean into that appreciation, lean into that loving, joyful aspect of how we relate to other people. You just happen to be relating to a version of you. But we want to instill that sense of playfulness, that sense of love, that sense of respect and appreciation. You call out the highlights, you call out those fun memories, and then you move into, remember that tough loss. That was hard. That was hard. You can acknowledge how difficult it was. So in the letter, you can say it was hard, or that was a really shitty time. Like, that was fucking awful. Feel free to let the expletives go in there. Make this letter real. Make it land. Make it really hit you. Because that's how we embrace the ending. We acknowledge the realness of it. We acknowledge the realness of that chapter is closing. We got to wrap that up. We get the opportunity to wrap that ending up nicely, to harvest everything intentionally, and move into the next chapter purposefully and fully equipped with all of the goodness from that last chapter. Too many people either never close the past doors that they're walking through, and so they're always living in the past, even when something new has come along, or they're rushing through, this is me, up until now, I'm working on doing this differently, rushing through into the next, saying, all right, next job, or next client, next team, next whatever. And it's always like, like squirrel, like so exciting. When really there's so much behind us that is waiting for celebration, for recognition, to be brought with us forward. This is the purpose of that letter. So inject the emotions, inject the memories into this letter. Yeah, some tears are probably going to fall. I should have told you to grab some tissues beforehand, actually. Well, I mean, chances are, if you're working with me, you've cried at least once on our calls. Because we talk about the real stuff. We access the stuff that really, really matters and that really makes a difference in this life. So we start with the playfulness, we celebrate and we play in the highlights, and then we acknowledge the tough stuff. We acknowledge the stuff that really sucked. There's always going to be a piece of that. Even if it's, you know what, I really never found like a pure sense of joy. I'm really pretty fucking disappointed in that. And that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't have to be all like rainbows and sunshine. It doesn't have to be all like, oh, let's pretend that this was the best chapter of my life. Maybe it wasn't. Right? That's okay. Just be very real and honest in your conversation with yourself in this letter. So move through the stuff that was painful, that was difficult, that was really tough and challenging, and then celebrate what you brought from that. You know what? When I broke my leg during that game, I thought my career was over. I thought this was it. And I felt totally useless. I felt like I let my team down. I felt like I'd let myself down. I'd let my family and fans down. And so you're leaning into the pain. That's an example of like leaning into the realness around this. And then move into, and you know what that taught me? Find the lessons. Find how and where you grew. Call it out. You know what that taught me? I got a real lesson in resilience that day. I got a real lesson in determination and getting really clear around what I wanted during that time. Speak into, and this when you write the letter, this might be the first time that you're recognizing those lessons. And that's awesome. So whether you knew them and you learned them at the time, or whether you're learning them for the first time in this exercise, or learning them, which is what I'm guessing, you're learning them much more deeply through this exercise. Lean into them. If you want to, you can grab the lessons from the highlights as well. Sometimes we're so busy in the celebration that we forget that we're growing as well there too. It's not just fun and playful and like, yes, we did it. We got the championship, or I got the fastest time. I set a PR, or whatever it is. I got gold. Find the lessons. There are lessons all over the place. This is what I mean when we talk about harvesting the gems of our past chapter. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So we start with the loving and playful intro. We move into the celebration of the highlights and the fond memories. Grab the lessons from there. We move into the painful stuff. Definitely grab the lessons from there. Spend as much time as you want in those two sections alone. It's okay if it takes like multiple pages to write it all out, especially for those of you who have had very long winding roads, very unpredictable paths, or very long careers, or maybe there's just a lot of stuff that went down in that last chapter. Lean into just pouring it out, being very reflective about it, looking at it, examining those times, and harvesting all the gold that has to bring you. Then what we want to do is make a declaration. We thank that version of us. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for believing. Thanks for fighting through that. Because of what you did, yesterday's me, because of everything that you went through, here's what I get to bring with me in my next chapter. So this is where you take stock of everything that this past chapter came to bring you, and you say in a declarative way, here's what I'm bringing with me. I'm bringing that sense of resilience. I'm bringing a new relationship with myself. I'm bringing a sense of purpose. I'm bringing a sense of commitment to learn even when I don't know what's around the corner. This is the most powerful section of this letter to help you close out this past chapter intentionally and richly. Because now it's like you're packing your suitcase for a trip. Here's what I'm choosing to put in the suitcase as I go on this adventure. You declare what you're bringing with you. And then you can sign it. Sign it lovingly, sign it playfully, sign it on a high note, right? And this is something that I want you to keep handy. So keep it maybe on your desk, maybe somewhere near your gym clothes, maybe somewhere that's just, very, very accessible. Because when we step into a new chapter, when we step into a new venture, a new job, a new team, a new whatever, a new identity, at the bottom line, guys, when we step into change, life is asking us to step into our next version of our identity. And there's gonna be times where we feel like we don't know what the heck we're doing, or that we're messing it all up, or we're doing a terrible job, or we're just free falling. You're gonna have those moments. So in those moments, this letter and having it handy, here's what I advise. Have a digital copy on your phone, have a digital copy on your laptop or desktop, have a printed copy around your house where you are, within reach, within eyesight, so that when those tough times come in the next chapter, you can read through that letter and remember how fucking powerful you actually are, how much you have in your arsenal, how much you have learned along the way. Because in those moments of feeling like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing right now, coming back to that kind of material creates a little foundation under your feet so you don't feel like you're in a free fall anymore. Say, this is who I know myself to be. This is what I've brought with me. This is what I'm carrying with me in my suitcase as I'm on this next adventure. Okay. And then we can relax. We can remember who the fuck you are. And you can make empowered decisions from that identity, from that foundation. Okay? So have fun with this. Remember, this is about closing the door. Now, there's probably going to be things that you remember in the future. You're like, oh yeah, I should have put that in my letter. You can write that letter again, or you can write a follow-up letter. Say, hey, I forgot to tell you this one thing. Remember when. But make sure at the end of any subsequent letters, you're making that declarative sentence at the end. Here's what I'm taking with me from those wins, from those losses, from those challenges, from those celebratory moments. Remember to inject it with gratitude. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this journey. Okay? Next time, we're going to be moving into the second step of the expand methodology of life transformation, and that's express gratitude. Okay, we talked a little bit about gratitude today. We're going to talk about the real power behind a gratitude practice and how you can make it count. You can make it hit you in the chest. You can make it propel you into the next situation. You can have it reset your entire day. Ultimately, you can reset your entire life with gratitude. Do not write it off. Do not sleep on gratitude. It is some powerful stuff, and most people are not using it effectively. Most people are not tapping into that power. So the next masterclass for March, that's what we're going to be leaning into. So the expand method of life transformation starts with E, embrace the ending. Practice that this month. Lean into it. Celebrate it. Endings don't have to be heartbreaking, but it's okay if they are. It's okay if you're sad. It's okay if there's a sense of loss. But don't let that negate all of the growth, all of the experiences, all of the goodness that came out of that past chapter too. It's not one or the other. These experiences are complex, they're multidimensional, they're multifaceted. Use this letter writing exercise as a tool to sort through the complexities and really see in front of you in black and white that there's a lot here for me to celebrate, for me to recognize, for me to grieve, of course, and for me to bring with me to equip me for the next amazing chapter of my life, professionally and personally. Okay, this is one of a series of monthly free trainings. I appreciate your patience